All right, so today we are going to be talking about sentence structure. We have already talked about what makes up a sentence. Like the basics of a simple sentence are that it has to have a subject, it has to have a predicate, and it has to express a complete thought. So you already have a solid understanding that the difference between these examples on the screen are that one's incomplete and one's complete. So cat jump, for example, is incomplete. Some might say, oh, well, it has a subject and it has a verb, which I know is included in a predicate. It does have those things, but it doesn't express a complete thought. Whereas if you look at this below it, the cat jumped because she was scared. That does express a complete thought, right? So one more quick example before moving on. If you say something like mountain move, well, that is incomplete. Yes, it has a noun or a subject with mountain, and yes, it has a verb with move, but it doesn't express a complete thought. So the man said he would move mountains in order to achieve his goal. Now that expresses a complete thought. So the idea of being able to recognize a complete sentence versus an incomplete sentence or a fragment is an important concept, because as you get into more complex sentence structure, then a complete sentence becomes an independent clause and a fragment becomes a dependent clause, and they work together in various ways to form different types of sentences. So if we talk about a complete sentence like we were just expressing versus an independent clause, well, what is the difference between them? So an independent clause has all of the characteristics of a complete sentence, but it's actually found in the context of a larger, more complex sentence. So it still has all the same words and all of the same integrity as it did when it stood alone, but it has decided to join other sets of words to create a bigger, more complex sentence. So when you put a complete sentence and together with another complete sentence to form a larger sentence, then those words, instead of being referred to as a sentence now, they're referred to as an independent clause. Or if it was a fragment, it would be called a dependent clause. So if you look at this example, I am going to work hard in order to achieve my goal of completing my HiSET. That stands alone by itself and is a complete sentence. It has all the structure it needs. Furthermore, let's look at this second example. I know it's going to be such an amazing feeling to hold that diploma in my hand. Again, that stands alone as a complete sentence. It has everything that it needs. So let's just experiment a little bit here and try to combine the two of these to make a compound sentence. A compound sentence is a sentence that contains two independent clauses. And as long as it has all of the characteristics of a sentence that could stand alone on its own, then it's an independent clause. So if you look at this, I'm going to work hard in order to achieve my goal of completing my HiSET. I know it is going to be such an amazing feeling to hold that diploma in my hand. Well, we want to combine the two of these, okay? Right now, they're standing alone, and you can tell because there's a period after the word HiSET. And then it goes on to the next complete sentence, which is standing alone. Well, we want to combine the two of them. So keep that spot where you see that period, keep that in mind, because that is really where the three rules that I'm getting ready to show you, that's where you're going to adhere these two independent clauses, or these two complete sentences. You're going to combine them together, and they're going to be combined at that spot. And there's a few special things that you have to do in order to make it grammatically correct to combine them. So you can combine these two sentences into one sentence, but you have to do so in specific ways. And keep in mind that that spot where you're combining them, where you're joining them, the rules I'm going to show you are going to be centered around that specific spot. So the first and probably the most obvious, common, frequently used way to combine these two would be to use what we call a coordinating conjunction. You may have also heard of coordinating conjunctions referred to as fanboys. So fanboys and coordinating conjunctions are the exact same thing, except for just fanboys is an acronym for coordinating conjunctions. So fanboys, the letters of each of those stand for a word. So the F stands for, the A stands for and, the N stands for nor, the B stands for but, the O stands for or, the Y stands for the word yet, and the S stands for the word so. So those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words are words that can be used as coordinating conjunctions. So those specific words can be used to combine two complete sentences to make them a compound sentence. However, you can't just use them by themselves. You have to use them along with a comma. So it's not just a fanboy, it's a comma and a fanboy. So if you look at the example that we had before, we've decided that we wanted to combine them, right? So down here at the bottom of the screen, I am going to work hard in order to achieve my goal of completing my HiSET, comma, the fanboy word and, I know it is going to be such an amazing feeling to hold that diploma in my hand. So now we have combined our two complete independent sentences into one larger sentence containing both elements. And see here where there used to be a period, instead of at that spot where you're joining them, instead of a period, now you've used a comma and one of these coordinating conjunctions. So here is another example of, you had a complete sentence. I like going to the beach. And another complete sentence. Florida is my favorite state to visit. Each of those have all the elements of a sentence that can stand alone by itself. They're perfectly fine as they are. But we want to make a compound sentence by combining the two independent clauses. So doing so using the fanboys method that I just showed you would look something like this. I like going to the beach, comma, coordinating conjunction and, Florida is my favorite state to visit. So up here, where these same sets of words stood alone by themselves with a period at the end and a capital letter at the beginning, they were called complete sentences. Here, those same sets of words combined using a comma and a coordinating conjunction with a capital letter at the beginning and a punctuation mark at the end is now all together referred to as a compound sentence, and these sets of words are referred to as independent clauses. Okay, let's look at another example here. My alarm didn't go off this morning. Again, this can stand alone as a complete sentence. Capital letter at the beginning, period at the end, has all the makings of a complete sentence. I was late for work. Same. Capital letter at the beginning, punctuation at the end, has everything you need in order for it to be a complete sentence. Well, let's combine the two of these using the comma and coordinating conjunction method that we just talked about and make a compound sentence out of it. It would look like this. My alarm didn't go off this morning, comma, fanboy or coordinating conjunction word so, I was late for work. This is what I would encourage you to do in order to make sure that you are using the coordinating conjunction correctly and that you're correctly identifying the coordinating conjunction in somebody else's word. Is every time you would see this pattern where there's a comma and a fanboy, then remember that's that spot I told you to keep your eye on. Each side of it needs to have an independent clause. So if you look at this conjunction area right here, this spot where they're being joined together, previously there would have just been a period, right? But no more. Now we're moving the period to the end because we want to make a bigger sentence out of it. But the same spot is still important. So you want to, okay, I got my comma, good. I've got so, which I know is a fanboy, so I got my coordinating conjunction. So I'm going to look to the left of that. My alarm didn't go off this morning. Okay, that's an independent clause. That's to the right of that. I was late for work. Okay, that's good. That's an independent clause. I've got my comma. I've got my coordinating conjunction. So it's passed all the tests. This is a compound sentence. And the coordinating conjunction combining method was used correctly. So here are some things to keep in mind. Every time you see the word for, or every time you see the word and, or the word nor, or the word but, or the word or the word yet, or the word so, every time you see those words in a sentence, doesn't necessarily mean that that word is being used as a coordinating conjunction. Those are just some words that you can use as a coordinating conjunction. Those same words can also be used in many other contexts. So that's why I say that you want to, if you're wanting to make a compound sentence by using the comma and the coordinating conjunction, you want to make sure that you're dealing with two independent clauses. So if you take a look at this example, I like peanut butter and jelly. Okay, well, I see the word and I know that and is one of the fanboys, the coordinating conjunction. So that's why I encourage you to do that test that I just talked about. Take the word and, look on one side. I like peanut butter. Okay, that's fine. That's an independent clause. Look on the other side. Jelly. That's not. Jelly can't stand alone by itself. So in this case, the word and isn't acting as a coordinating conjunction, which is why you wouldn't need a comma along with it. So if you're going to have the comma and the coordinating conjunction, you want to make sure that each side has an independent clause on it. Now look at this example down at the bottom. I like peanut butter and jelly, comma, but, which I know is a fanboy. My dad is allergic to peanut butter. Okay, so I'm going to do the test here. I'm going to look at this conjunction spot, and I'm going to look to the left of it. I like peanut butter and jelly. Yes, that could stand alone. I'm going to look to the right of it. My dad is allergic to peanut butter. No. Yes, that could stand alone. Exactly. So you've got an independent clause over here to the left. I like peanut butter and jelly. You've got an independent clause to the right over here. My dad is allergic to peanut butter. And you have joined them using this comma and coordinating conjunction. Sorry, I hope I didn't confuse you by saying no. My mind was still up here on just jelly. Just jelly can't stand alone by itself. My dad is allergic to peanut butter, can stand alone by itself. So this has passed the test, and this is a perfectly fine compound sentence. So here's, again, something else to keep in mind. They're a package deal, that comma and that coordinating conjunction. If you're using them to bring together two independent clauses, you got to use them both. Sometimes folks like to just use one or just use the other, and that creates a problem with the grammar. So let me show you how that plays out. Sometimes people will just want to put the comma at that conjunction spot, and that's what it looks like this. We investigated the complexities of sentence structure in class today. The students really understood the concepts. This is not right. If you look at that conjunction spot, okay, I got a comma. I'm going to look to the left of it. We investigated the complexities of sentence structure in class today. That's complete. That's an independent clause. Okay, I'm going to look to the right of it. The students really understood the concepts. Yep. So I've got my comma, but I'm missing my coordinating conjunction. I'm missing my fanboy. You can't just put the comma. You have to put the comma and the coordinating conjunction. If you just put the comma, this is called a comma splice, and it's a problem. Likewise, sometimes people just want to put the coordinating conjunction. So this, we know that every time you use the word and, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're creating a compound sentence or that you are trying to use that word as a coordinating conjunction, but we do have a test that we can test that with, right? So I see this word and, so I'm going to look to the left of it. We investigated the complexities of sentence structure in class today. Okay, that could stand by itself. I'm going to look to the right of it. The students really understood the concepts. That could stand by itself too. So what we have here is all the makings of a compound sentence, but by leaving out that comma to go with its coordinating conjunction buddy, then we've created a run-on sentence. So you have to use the comma along with the coordinating conjunction. Comma splices are no good. Run-on sentences are no good. Okay, I think we're gonna skip the break for now. We'll come back to that later. Okay, so I've given you one method for creating a compound sentence. That is using your comma with your coordinating conjunction to bring together two independent clauses, okay? Here's another method. Here's your second method. I'm going to show you three today. Your second method is that you can simply put a semicolon in between the two of them. And that's in bounds. That's perfectly normal. You still want to, in order to test it, you still want to go back to that conjunction point, to that spot where you're combining the two of them, where we talked about a few minutes ago. I said, keep your eye on this where this is standing alone and it's a period right now. That's where we're going to combine the two, and that spot is where things are going to have to be a specific way in order for it to be combined correctly. So in this case, to combine them correctly, all you need to do is throw that semicolon in there, and that's okay. You would still test it the same way if you're looking to see if they've used the semicolon to create a compound sentence correctly. You would start at that spot, look to the left. I like going to the beach, can stand alone, look to the right. Florida is my favorite state to visit. Perfect. This is a compound sentence. We investigated the complexities of sentence structure in class today. Perfect. That can stand alone. The students really understood the concepts. Perfect. That can stand alone. So you're free to just throw a semicolon in the middle, period at the end, capital letter at the beginning. You got yourself a compound sentence. Here's another example from what we've been looking at so far. My alarm didn't go off this morning. I was late for work. I like peanut butter and jelly, semicolon. My dad is allergic to peanut butter. These are all perfectly acceptable ways of making a compound sentence by just having two independent clauses and putting a semicolon in the middle. You got yourself a compound sentence. Okay, so there is another, this is our third rule that I'm going to talk to you about. We're going to do a little quick checkpoint here coming up in the next couple of slides, just so I can make sure that you're good to go with what I have described so far before I show you this third rule. But third rule is when we're kind of combining the first two rules. The third rule is going to use a transition word. So, you know, the fanboys, the and, but, for, nor, but, or, and, yet. So those are, you know, they're transition words. They take you from one independent clause to the next independent clause. So with this third strategy, you still use a transition word, except for you're free to use many other ones besides just for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. You also still use a semicolon, and you also still use a comma, and you also still have to have an independent clause on each side of that conjunction point. So I'll show you how that works. Here is a list of the conjunctive adverbs. So if you think of fanboys as just 7 words that you have at your disposal, look at all of these different words that you can use with this third strategy that I'm going to show you. These are all examples of conjunctive adverbs. So let's stop here real quick and just do kind of a quick checkpoint. So you can see that with the conjunctive adverb, using that along with a semicolon and a comma to combine two independent clauses, you can see that you have a lot more choice as far as simply just the words that are available to you to create your sentence. So let's though talk real quick about the first two methods that we discussed. Here's my question for you. When using fanboys, so for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so, to join two independent clauses in order to make a compound sentence, what is the rule? So I want you to contemplate this. Do you just use a comma? Do you only use the fanboy? Or do you use the comma plus the coordinating conjunction in fanboy? So think that over, and then I'd like to hear from you. Can you tell me either in the chat or someone raise their hand and unmute themselves? There we go. Okay, I got one in. Yep, good job, good job, good job. Excellent job. Okay, awesome. So everybody that responded said C, and that is exactly right. Yes, great job. Nice work, everyone. So that's exactly right. If you only use a comma, then that's called a comma splice. If you only use the fanboy, then that's called a run-on sentence. They're a package deal. You have to use the comma plus the coordinating conjunction. You guys did great on that. Okay, so here I have one more question for you before we move on. Take a look at these different examples and tell me which one, A, B, or C, is correct. So two of these, they've created a compound sentence inappropriately, but one of them, they have created a compound sentence in a perfectly acceptable way. Which one of these do you think is the one where they have created a compound sentence in a perfectly acceptable way? A, B, or C? Okay, I got some answers in. Can I hear from some other folks as well, please? Okay, anybody else? Okay. Okay, so the correct answer here is C. Let's walk through each of these, okay? If we look at A, our family was unable to gather for our annual family reunion this year. I was sad that I was not able to see them. Okay, so I have a comma right here, correct? So this comma is acting as like the joining spot for these two independent clauses, right? Well, let me check it. If I look on the left side, our family was unable to gather for our annual family reunion this year. That can stand alone by itself. Yep. Okay. So that's an independent clause. I was sad that I was not able to see them. Okay. So that's an independent clause. Okay. So I know that whenever I am joining two independent clauses here, that I have to do it as a package deal, right? Like you said here, I need not just a comma, but I need a comma plus a coordinating conjunction. So in this case, A is not right because you only have a comma. You don't have a coordinating conjunction. So A is an example of a comma splice. And is incorrect. Okay, so let's look at B. Our family was unable to gather for our annual family reunion this year, and I was sad that I was unable to see them. Does anybody have any guesses on why this isn't correct and what it's called? There you go. Yes, that's exactly right. Okay, so this is called a run-on sentence. So if I look on here, I see this word and, right? Which I'm like, okay, I know that that is a fanboy. I know that that is can be used as a coordinating conjunction. So I'm going to test it. I'm going to look to the left of it. Our family was unable to gather for our annual family reunion this year. Okay, that could stand alone by itself, right? I'm going to look to the right of it. I was sad that I was unable to see them. Okay, that could stand alone. So I know that this and is acting as the glue or the adhesive that is combining these two independent clauses, right? Well, I know that I can't just use a comma and I can't just use a fanboy, right? I have to use a comma plus a fanboy. So in this case, exactly like one of your classmates said, that you are missing a comma. You need to put a comma right here. So this one is not right because it's missing a comma, and as it stands, it is a run-on sentence. Okay, so you have to have the comma right there. Must have a comma plus the coordinating conjunction. Okay. So, all right, good job on that. Now let's look at C. Our family was unable to gather for our annual family reunion this year, semicolon. I was sad that I was unable to see them. Okay, well, we've already clearly established that this is an independent clause, and we've also established that the second part is an independent clause. So the question really becomes, is it okay to join two independent clauses using a semicolon? And the answer to that is yes. Again, so the correct answer here is C. Does anybody have any questions about that we should talk about? Anything I can do to help clear that up, or was that demonstration so far so good? Help answer your questions? Okay, awesome. Seems like that walkthrough helped everybody understand. All right, perfect, good deal. So now we're going to go on. I promised you a third option for creating a compound sentence, and I will hold off no longer. So here we go. Remember, I told you that it's kind of a combination of all of the two methods that we've already talked about, and that you have to use a semicolon, you have to use a transition word, and you have to use a comma. Well, I showed you that list before that has all the different conjunctive adverbs on it. So instead of just the comma and a fanboy where you're limited to those 7 words, this method you use a semicolon, one of these words, which is referred to as a conjunctive adverb, and then a comma at that adhesion spot, at that conjunction spot. So your formula is semicolon plus a word plus a comma. So let's see how that plays out with the examples that we've talked about so far. Our family was unable to gather for our annual family reunion this year. Semicolon. Therefore, which is a conjunctive adverb, comma. I was sad that I was unable to see them. Found a typo. Okay, so this is perfectly acceptable way to create a compound sentence. You again go back to this spot where you're bringing them together. To test it, you just look on each side. Yep, that could stand alone. Look on the other side. Yep, that could stand alone. Period at the end, capital letter at the beginning. All right, well, I feel like what we're working with here is a compound sentence. So I'm going to look at that conjunction spot and make sure that it meets one of these 3 criteria. It either has a comma and a coordinating conjunction, it has just a semicolon, or it has a semicolon, a transition word, and a comma. Here's some other examples of how it looks. I like to go to the beach. semicolon, hence, transition word, comma. Florida is my favorite state to visit. So think of this conjunctive adverb as just a transition word, or a bridge, or it's just a word that you're going to use. So you don't have to necessarily remember the vocabulary conjunctive adverb. And as you know, on the HiSET, they don't test vocabulary in that way. You're never going to be asked to say, identify the conjunctive adverb in the following sentence. They're not going to do that, but they will apply these different rules in practice, like in an actual piece of writing, and it'll be up to you to recognize these same types of mistakes that you recognized back here. So, for example, on the HiSET, they might have something like this, and they might have this underlined, and then they will say in your options, how would you correct the underlined portion? And it'll be up to you to find either choice A, B, C, or D, which adds a coordinating conjunction along with the comma. So as far as the verbiage goes, then don't be alarmed by this conjunctive adverb. Like, it's a transition word, right? And what you're wanting to make sure is that it's used in the proper way along with a semicolon and a comma whenever you're creating a compound sentence, which consists of two independent clauses. So let's look at a couple of other examples here. My alarm didn't go off this morning. Subsequently, I was late for work. We've got our semicolon, we've got our transition word, and we've got our comma. So let's look at each side of them. My alarm didn't go off this morning. Yep, stands alone. I was late for work. Yep, stands alone. I like peanut butter and jelly. Semicolon, transition word, comma. However, my dad is allergic to peanut butter. Left, I like peanut butter and jelly. Yep, that stands alone. Right, my dad is allergic to peanut. Yep, that stands alone. We got a semicolon. We got a word. Yep, so this one passes all the tests as well. And lastly, we investigated the complexities of sentence structure in class today. Semicolon, transition word, therefore, comma. The students really understood the concepts. First part, stand alone. Second part, could stand alone. We got our semicolon, we got our transition word, we got our comma. So all of these are perfectly acceptable ways of applying this third option that I've given you today for creating a compound sentence. So it's, just kind of depends on the context of the sentence and the writer and what you want to do as far as using which one of these options. But as you can kind of see, there are certain situations where one might be more appropriate over the other. So here are the three different ways that we talked about today in order to create a compound sentence. So you know that a compound sentence consists of two independent clauses. And the first way that we talked about was to use a comma and a coordinating conjunction. And this is an example of what that looks like in practice. I really want to earn my HiSET credential, but I have several competing priorities. Comma, coordinating conjunction. You look at the left of it. I really want to earn my HiSET credential. Yep. That could stand alone. You look at the right of it. I have several competing priorities. Yep. So that's exactly right. Okay, another way that we talked about was just simply inserting a semicolon. So the way that kind of plays out looks like this. Number 2, I am committed to completing my goal, semicolon. I will do whatever it takes to earn my HiSET credential. You look on each side of those and tell me you have an independent clause. You have a capital letter at the beginning and a punctuation mark at the end. Then I tell you, you've got yourself a perfectly acceptable compound sentence. Lastly, we talked about using a semicolon plus a conjunctive adverb plus a comma as your conjunction point to create a compound sentence bringing together two independent clauses. Option 3 is what that looks like. I get overwhelmed with everything I have to do. semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma. The transition word is however. I believe in myself and know that I am capable of achieving anything I put my mind to. Okay, well, here's our conjunction point right here, and it has the formula that we're looking for. Semicolon, conjunctive adverb, and comma, so we've got that covered. If I look at the left of it, I get overwhelmed with everything I have to do. That's an independent clause. That could stand alone by itself. If I look at the right of it, I believe in myself and know that I'm capable to achieve anything I put my mind to. That works too. That's an independent clause. So here are the three different methods that I showed you for creating a compound sentence, and this is what each of them look like. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, so if you don't have any questions right now, that's great. Of course, if any come up, then okay, no questions. Okay, thank you. If any come up, then I'm here to help address them. In the meantime, I want to show you where this lesson can be found on Blackboard. So I'm going to share my screen with you really quick. Okay, so on Blackboard, I go to course contents. Now we have primarily been working in Unit 2. This lesson you will find in Unit 3, and the third one down, coordinating conjunctions, fanboys, and subordinating conjunctions. Okay, so subordinating conjunctions, this is going to be a little bit more of a preview, which we will follow up on in a later class lesson, but I want for you to still get a little bit of exposure to subordinating conjunctions. So if you come to this third lesson down, then that's where you can find the lesson on coordinating conjunctions. So there are 3 videos in there. My screen froze up when I was trying to share with you. So you'll see whenever you get in there that there are 3 lessons, or there are 3 videos that will help follow up this lesson and really kind of help solidify the information, as well as giving you a little bit of exposure again to the subordinating conjunctions. And then there is a handout that has all of the information that we just talked about in just a little bit of different form, and gives you some additional examples, and also gives you a couple of different opportunities to kind of practice the skills. And then there is a third option. There's a third document in that lesson that will give you the opportunity to practice with coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions. And again, keep in mind that subordinating conjunctions, we've talked about them a little bit in the past, but I don't expect for you to master them. Now, coordinating conjunctions, given this lesson that we had today, combined with the lessons and the exposure that we've had to them in the past, I think that this will be an opportunity for you to really solidify and master the information related to using coordinating conjunctions. Now, subordinating conjunctions, that will be more of an opportunity for you to get a little bit of access and a little bit of information, a little bit of exposure, and a little bit of practice that we will then springboard off of in a different lesson. So just a quick heads up that that's kind of the difference between the two. And as long as you don't have any other questions, then you are free to go ahead and jump on Blackboard, access those lessons, and work through them. Please feel free to always check in here with me if you have any questions at all. I'm happy to address them, and I will be looking forward to hearing how the lesson went.